So guys, a quick note to say that I am sorry that I've been making way too many Caro-Kann jokes. People have been hitting the thumbs down button, unsubscribing from the channel, and I want to take on board this feedback. And so I promise not to do it in this video. And so in this video, we're going to talk about how to gain 100 ELO points in 30 days as a lower rated player. And the easiest way to do that is to do tons of tactics training. It is something that you have to internalize. And so I get messages like this all the time. Ian, thank you very much for supporting the channel. I'm very grateful. Who basically questions the utility of doing tactics training, saying that, well, in a puzzle, you know there's a puzzle, but in a game, you don't know there's a puzzle. And so this is how I used to think as well when I started playing the game in September 2020. However, I can say if you do this stuff on a regular basis, it does help your brain and your pattern recognition and your defensive capabilities, which I'll go over in a second. However, to motivate the discussion, I'm going to show you some of the end results. And so here is my Lichess Blitz account. Let's be friends, guys. I'm not a great player or anything, as you can see. So I am rated 1684 on Blitz. But the important thing here is over the last 1 month, my Blitz rating sunk as low as 1618 and climbed into the 1690s recently, with the highest rating of 1695 achieved on June the 27th. If I toggle here over to my chess.com account, you can see a similar story. So I have a Blitz rating of 1358. Okay, not amazing, but you can see here in the last 30 days, I have gained 92 ELO points, so almost 100. And it's telling me here that I have a high of 1364, played 66 games over the last 1 month, winning some 34, losing 23. And so doing regular tactics training, if I go over into my Lichess account, has definitely helped me. So what I've been doing is doing tons of Puzzle Storm. And so what this is you have to solve as many puzzles as you can in a 3-minute window. Chess.com have a similar feature called Puzzle Rush. It's not exactly the same, but it's very similar. And you can see here as I scroll down, I've been training basically every day in June, or almost every day in June, almost every day in May, and pretty much every day in April as well. But if you go further back, you'll see big blanks where I haven't been training. And so what you tend to notice is that in April and May, my high scores for Puzzle Storm were in the sort of 15s, 20s, then climbs to about 20, 25s. And then yesterday I posted a high here of 33 correct puzzles in a 3-minute window. And so this has definitely helped me, and I'm going to talk about why I think it helps you in some more detail. Okay, so one of the first things it's going to help you to do is to get sharper and quicker. The key point being here, quicker at addressing and creating threats. And so if you can restrict your opponent's pieces and make your pieces more active, the puzzles are likely to flow in your favor. And so here's an example from a recent game that I played. There's no puzzle here. My opponent has made the mistake queen to d2. And so remember, in a blitz game, we have to make a move within a few seconds. And so a move like rook on a to e8, which I believe is the second best engine move, is plausible. You put a rook on an open file. However, if you look at this position carefully, this b3 bishop is playing the role of a big pawn. It really wants to look at this diagonal, look at this f7 square, where one day it might be a threat. Equally, my bishop on b7 is stuck behind his pawn, wants to stare at the castled king and make threats against this f3 knight. And so by just doing tons and tons of puzzles, you understand immediately that you just got to restrict your opponent, make your pieces active. And so in this position, I find a top engine move within a few seconds, which is c5, a basic example. And now this bishop is just locked out of the game, and they're not paying attention. They make this mistake, and now we have bishop takes f3, g takes f3. Here, the safety of the king is compromised. We have these double isolated pawns here on the f file, and even if my opponent defends well, they're likely to lose in an endgame, okay? And so they're somewhat against the ropes. They're defending here until finally they just hang their queen. But that situation has come from a position where I have made my pieces quite active and restricted my opponent's ability to move. And when you do thousands and thousands and thousands of puzzles, you just develop that kind of instinct for finding these kind of top engine moves. Okay, another thing that's going to help you to do is to break the habit of valuing material religiously and start to evaluate all kinds of captures, even if the captures seem unreasonable. It looks like you're going down in material. And so in this position, my opponent has played this move, bishop to h6, which is a mistake. I find a top engine move here. I think a lot of us would play this, queen to c6. However, what I was thinking about in this position, threatening mate here, obviously on g2, was that if my opponent responded with bishop to f3 trying to address the battering ram, then I could just take, go down the exchange, but be in a totally winning position. And it does happen. My opponent instinctively responds with bishop to f3. I take the bishop, which turns out to be the absolute top engine move. We have g takes f3, queen takes f3. And in this position, okay, I'm down material, but the white king is totally exposed. We have king to h2 for some reason, bishop e5 check, king g1. And in this position, I played queen h1 check, winning the rook, but I don't need to. I could have played bishop to g3, which would effectively mean that white would have to give up the queen. Okay, but queen h1 is still winning. We take the rook. And in this position, again, doing tactics puzzles over and over again, you immediately see the move here to keep this game ultra simple. You have to play the move here, bishop to g3 check. If the king moves to some light square, we're just going to go ahead and deliver another check, in which case we are going to pick up this queen. My opponent realizes this, gives up the queen, we play a few more moves, pick up the bishop, and they resign. But doing tons and tons of tactics puzzles helped me to realize that in this position, setting up this battering ram would be useful, because if they responded with bishop to f3, then I could just go and take. And that's exactly what happened in this game. Okay, another thing that you need to do is to keep training your brain to think about checks in games. And obviously a high proportion of tactics puzzles involve a check or series of checks. And so here is an amusing example where even if you do tons of these puzzles, you'll still make oversights. And so you have to just keep training your brain and to reduce the blunder that I'm about to show you. And so in this position, my opponent has played this move queen to a5. I find a top engine move here, which is a3. And this basically rules out bishop to c5. My opponent plays it anyway, and I fork them with this move b4. They play this annoying move queen to b6, basically saying that, well, if you take my bishop, I'll take your bishop. And I didn't think about this deeply enough. If they do that, then they will lose their queen after rook to a2, in which case the queen has no escape squares. It's going to have to give itself up for the rook. And in this position, obviously it's bliss. You're trying to play quickly. You're trying to think about how to displace this queen. I come up with this horrendous move, knight to d5. And of course we have bishop takes f2. And that's why we are where we are, guys. Obviously, it's going to take years to get good at this game. And so I'm not saying that this is all you need. Obviously, if you're a high-rated player, other things are going to come into play. Your openings, your middle games, your endgame technique. However, at the lower levels, hand on heart, have some humility. There's lots of mistakes, lots of low-hanging fruit. And the tactics training does increase your sharpness, does increase your awareness, and help me to gain those 100 ELO points both on Lichess and chess.com. So why don't you try it? If you don't want to pay for a chess.com membership, open up a lichess.org account, do tons of Puzzle Storm over the next 30 days, and let me know in the comments below whether it resulted in an improvement in your ELO. Thank you very much for your time.